episode 15 of Haven Kids at Home. Let's go.
Hi, Haven Kids! It's Miss Sarah. I hope you're having a wonderful day and that you are enjoying summertime. We're up in the trees. I'm getting kisses. Alrighty, this episode, we are going to learn to count to two questions, catechism questions. Question 32 and 33. Question 32 is, what does every sin deserve? The wrath and curse of God. That's intense. And then question 33 is, what was the sin of our first parents? Now remember, our first parents, that's a term we use for Adam and Eve. So what was the sin of our first parents? The answer is eating the forbidden fruit. Blah, blah. Can you say blah, blah, blah? Like you just put something gross in your mouth, like you shouldn't have eaten. Blah. What does every sin deserve? The wrath and curse of God. What was the sin of our first parents? Eating the forbidden fruit. Blah. What do you think of that? What do you think? That it goes really fast. Super duper fast. Up here in the treetops. Whoa! Whoa!
Okay. Let's do it again.
Does every sin deserve the wrath and curse of God? What was the sin of our first parents? Eating the forbidden fruit. Blah. This was another episode of Haven Kids. We love you guys. Have a good summer. Play in the water. Don't poke your siblings too much. Be nice to your parents. You know, the usual. Love you.
Hi, Haven Kids. It's the superhero family.
Instead of dinosaurs and
Dinosaurs this time, changing it up on you. But still singing Grace Got You. So if you know the lyrics, sing along. Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Hi guys, it's Izzy here, and today we will be doing a new memory verse called Proverbs 17:17, and here are the hand motions. A friend loves at all times. Proverbs 17:17. Friend loves at all times. Proverbs 17. A friend loves at all times. Proverbs 17:17. Proverbs 17:17. Bye guys.
You know, I really thought that Baby Yoda would hit the ground first before Kylo Ren. I mean, he is much bigger. Well, I guess that's gravity. And gravity is something that pulls objects down, down, down with the same force. I guess you could say that gravity is a real downer. Well, I guess another way to look at this is if gravity's pulling it down, these two objects, could we say that the ground is going up, up, up towards the objects? You know, that makes me think of a story.
Of course, it makes you think of the story, Mr. Drew. Yeah.
Well, this story takes place in the 32nd book of the Old Testament. And this book is called Jonah. Now, Jonah is a very small book, but it involves a guy named, you guessed it, Jonah. And we'll pretend this is Jonah for our story today. And Jonah, he is a prophet. Now, remember what a prophet is. It's a person who listens to God, what he has to say, and he tells God's special people what he said. Before we get into that, we're going to talk about last week's story. And remember last week we talked about a guy named Naaman, and he had leprosy, and so he went to Israel to get healed by the prophet Elijah. Now, spoiler alert, he does get healed, and he trusts God's promises. Now, remember, he was the commander of an army that was the enemy of Israel. But Naaman heard the good news, and he trusted God. But Naaman, he was just one guy. What about a whole city that was awful and that was mean? That brings us to our story. And our story involves a city called Nineveh. Now, Nineveh was the capital city of Assyria. Now, this city right here, they were stuck. But not because they were slaves. No, actually, they made their neighbors slaves. So they were stuck in a sense in which they did not love God. So this brings us to Jonah. God uses Jonah in a very special way. Because God told Jonah to go to Nineveh and warn them that God would punish them if they didn't stop disobeying. Well, Jonah, he did this thing. Well, nope. He did the exact opposite of what God told him. He went down to the sea, instead, to the town of Joppa, to get away from God. Well, why did he go the opposite direction? Well, he did not want to share the good news with Nineveh, because he did not think that Nineveh deserved God's forgiveness.
So, this Joker was in Joppa, okay?
And he went down to the dock. We'll pretend this is our ship. And he headed down from Joppa, which was in the opposite direction of where he should be, Nineveh. But God was not done with him. God, he was going to show Jonah. He was going to show him that forgiveness is not a matter of deserving. So in other words, forgiveness is a free gift. What I'm saying is that no matter how far down you run or how badly you feel like you're stuck, God can rescue you. Okay, so Jonah, he's in this ship with other people. Okay, so imagine there's a crew here. And so they're headed from Joppa away from Nineveh. And guess what happens next? God sends a huge storm. And this storm, it nearly sank this ship. But Jonah, he knew that God was the one who sent that storm. And so Jonah, he told the crew to toss him down into the water. So they did. And guess what happened? The storm stopped. So here's Jonah.
Ah, he's in the water, can't swim.
You ready for this? Okay. So Jonah, as he's trying to swim, a giant fish comes up and swallows Jonah. Oh my gosh. So Jonah's in the belly, and this fish went down into the water for 3 days. Imagine being inside a fish for 3 days. Jonah, he's in the belly of this fish, and at this point, he realized that he was the furthest down that he could get. He was the furthest away from God and the most stuck that anybody could be. But also at this moment, he did realize that God was actually rescuing him. I mean, not only was he still alive in the belly, I mean, imagine that, but his heart was also down, 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 away from God. But God was doing something to his heart. So while he was in the belly, Jonah even came up with a song thanking God for putting him here. At this point, things started looking up, where the fish, it surfaced and spit out Jonah onto dry land. Thank you, fish. So he went to Nineveh, right? And he delivered God's message. And the people of Nineveh, they listened, where he shared the good news, he shared God's message, and they obeyed, and they received the gift of forgiveness. I'd like to say it was the end, but the thing with this story is that even God's prophets get it wrong. You see, Jonah, he waited to see what would happen with the Ninevites after he delivered God's message. You know, he thought that God might still clobber them. So he went up to a hill overlooking the city, and God, he caused a plant to grow and shade Jonah while he was waiting. A little gift to make Jonah's waiting a little easier, but then God sent a worm to eat the plant. And the fact that God forgave the Ninevites and took away Jonah's plant, well, Jonah, he threw a little hissy fit right there in the middle of nowhere. You see, because of our disobedience, we deserve a prophet like Jonah, who only sometimes obeys God and only treats some people like his neighbor. But because God is good and loves us, it is not about deserve. It is about God going down, down, down in the burning ring of fire. Down to rescue us and tell us the good news that his forgiveness is a free gift, so that he can bring us up, 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 to love him and to be in his family forever. Now, can you think of a time in which God came down to rescue us? You guys got it? God sent his son, Jesus, down from heaven, down to earth, down with the shepherds and the smelly sheep, down from his throne, down into a little manger to be a helpless little baby, so that he could grow up and tell the whole world his good news and the free gift of forgiveness. Well, that's it for today. Thank you to Jonah for surviving the storm and special guest, the fish. You guys have a good week. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
So much fun, guys. See you guys next time.
Haven Kids, I wanted to show you a new addition to our family. We have 2 caterpillars. You can see them here and here. Well, if you guys need some activities to do with your family this week, after our Haven Kids video, you can go to www.havenkids.com/hkhome, and we have some fun activities to do. Until then, say bye, Caterpillar. Bye, guys. We'll see you on the next video. Maybe we'll be butterflies.